enough to simply hit your protein target in pregnancy, or does when you eat actually matter? In this episode of Nourish, we're unpacking protein timing in women and whether distributing protein across your day matters. Stay tuned. Hi, I'm Melanie McGrice, pre and postnatal dietitian, and here at Nourish we translate reproductive science into practical nutrition strategies because the first 1,000 days shape your child's lifelong health. So, protein. Let me tell you what I see in clinic. Breakfast is a coffee or a piece of fruit. Morning tea might be a cup of tea and a biscuit, or perhaps nothing at all. Lunch is a salad with plenty of veggies, but very little protein. Afternoon tea is crackers, chocolate or fruit. Then dinner arrives, and that's when most of the protein shows up. From a total daily intake perspective, some women may technically reach adequate protein by the end of the day, but distribution matters. Protein is not simply a building block stored in a warehouse for later use. Amino acids circulate and are utilised dynamically. The placenta actively transports amino acids to the fetus, and those transport systems respond to maternal circulating levels. If protein intake is heavily skewed towards one evening meal, you're not providing steady substrate availability across the day. So why does this matter? Well, firstly, blood sugar regulation. Protein slows gastric emptying and moderates postprandial glucose responses. In pregnancy, your body naturally becomes more insulin resistant. So pairing carbohydrates with protein across the meals can significantly improve glycemic stability. If breakfast is carbohydrate only, blood sugar spikes are more likely. If snacks are predominantly refined carbs, energy fluctuations follow. Distributing protein evenly helps buffer those swings. Secondly, satiety and appetite regulation. Pregnancy already alters hunger hormones. Adequate protein at each meal improves satiety signals and can reduce grazing on ultra-processed foods later in the day. I often see women struggling with nausea or food aversions, particularly to meat, then defaulting to, say, pasta with passata and veggies or toast and fruit. While meat is not the only source of protein, insufficient intake can contribute to fatigue and unstable energy. Eggs, dairy, legumes, tofu, nuts and seeds can all contribute meaningfully. Third is placental amino acid transport. Now, the placenta contains active transport systems for amino acids, and fetal growth depends on adequate maternal supply. While severe protein deficiency is rare in developed countries, marginal intake, particularly when distribution is uneven, may influence substrate availability. So I believe that there are definite advantages to spreading protein evenly across the day, if you can tolerate it. I know it's more difficult if you're struggling with nausea or food aversions at particular times of the day. A practical target that I often use in clinic is aiming for a source of protein at every main meal and most snacks. That might mean Greek yogurt with breakfast instead of fruit alone, or adding legumes and eggs to salads, maybe pairing fruit with nuts, including tofu or lentils in pasta dishes, even adding things like chickpeas or bolotti beans to soups. Small structural changes make a significant difference. Protein timing in women during pregnancy is not about protein shakes every 2 hours. It's about consistent amino acid availability, blood sugar stability, and metabolic support. Because again, the first 1,000 days shape your child's lifelong health. Now, if you'd like personalised guidance on structuring your meals to support pregnancy metabolism, blood sugar and nutrient adequacy, you can book a consultation with our team of dietitians. We offer telehealth appointments and tailor plans to your lifestyle, preferences and stage of pregnancy. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you in the next episode. Even adding, one of my favourites is chickpeas. Sorry, I just want to add that in. Yeah, if I can.